Hello,
Welcome.
everyone.
Hello.
How is everyone tonight?
Wonderful.
Awesome, awesome. So today we are going to have tonight we're going to have a great discussion about women empowerment with our special guest. And I'm Jackie, the wellness advocate.
And I'm Roberta, the tool lady, and welcome, welcome, welcome. And I'm going to let our guest introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Imana Aziz. I am a confidence and life design mentor for women of all stages of life.
All right. All right.
It's amazing. I love what you do because I think that we don't. I don't think there's enough coaches for women, and I think it takes a very special kind of person to be able to be a coach. I used to be a case manager. Roberta, you as well, correct? So
Correct.
yeah,
Yes.
I know I had to step away from it because I'm an empath and everything feels very heavy, and I said, you know what, I have to step away because I can't disconnect. It would just stay with me. My clients would stay with me. I would not have a peace of mind like during the weekend or even at night worrying about them. Did they go get that food? Did they go get that financial assistance? What about you, Roberta?
Well, it is. It's very tough to be a caregiver and not have boundaries. And boundaries are sometimes hard to have, especially when you have secondary, believe secondary, what we call secondary trauma, because we're caregivers. I think all of us on the panel tonight are caregivers. Amanu,
hmm
you and myself, we're all caregivers in some kind of form. So it is very taxing when you talk about empowering other people, but yet looking out for yourself, right? But I did like that she did say that all different stages, because all women are not in the same stage. I like that. You have some women that are just coming into their young 20s. We got some coming into their 30s, some into their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And it is an ongoing evolution, right?
Yes.
Having your children grow up,
Losing
leaving the birth.
family members.
Yeah, yep,
As
losing
well.
family members. Yeah, and being caregivers of them, because a lot of the women are end up being caregivers of those individuals as well. So it is interesting that you said all ages. I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
And that was always been like uh the toughest thing for me when I would say coaches or other business people work with me, because we hear a lot in our fields. I'm sure both of you have heard that you have to niche down. You have to find, the very niche individual, a woman from what age to what age. And in my gut and my core, I can never settle on a specific age. However, I know that it will help people be able to find me because I may be target for one a specific age. But right now, I just turned 40 a few weeks ago, and
Well, happy belated birthday.
yes,
thank
happy
you.
belated birthday.
Yes, I just turned 40 a few weeks ago, and from a very young age, I was a black sheep, and I went through different hurdles. Some of them were, had harder issues because of culture. Some of them because of age. A lot of them because of social expectations. But a lot of times, the advice that you're giving is how would think back on a time in your life when you needed help, and how would you address that person? And I could
Yeah.
think back of several times in my life when I needed help. And there's no way that, especially without knowing someone's past, that you'll be able to fully address if they have not healed that trauma. Because we're not just healing or working with the confidence and the women empowerment of where they are right now. We're empowering that little girl or the rejection wife, uh, the person that failed the class, the person that feels like they lost at different stages of their life. So there's no way that you can accurately empower someone to get a job in a field that they're in, or get a raise in the field that they're in, when they're afraid of being rejected, because that's what happened to them in the past. We have to address that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes, and you mentioned before we get into the audience question, you mentioned that the different stages of life, and we're changing careers. Like Roberta said, there's different changes, things that occur, and I am one that has changed. Has been in different careers for the past few years, and
Mhm.
I'm actually about to transition into another career as well, after self reflection, after going through another depressive period, and trying to figure out why is it that I keep falling into depression? When did this start? And looking back, I pinpoint why, and what it is that I need routine and structure, and I need connection, constant connection. So I'm looking to get back into the school base, and like a family engagement, specialist. I'm working directly with the families, because that is what really, brings joy and fulfillment, and would allow me to be actually with my kids on the weekend versus the current job I have. I work almost every weekend. So, taking everything into consideration.
So, without going into like full blown on coach mode, I do have, and I'm a mom, and an older sister
Yes.
of 6. So, stop me if I love that you reflected on that and you noticed that you need connection. However, I must ask you, you had said that you were a social worker as well as Roberta, and you also mentioned you're an empath. I come from a background of teaching. I do have my BA in specialist in education with special ed emphasis. I also did a lot of clinical work. I am not an empath, thank goodness, because I love kids and I don't want to snap on schools for my kids. Those are my babies, and I
Mhm.
am a bit in my soul. I feel as though you'll do good for the children, but have you found how to separate yourself from the realities of what you'll see? The closer you are in the school system, the more you are putting yourself right back in what you left.
Yes, because I've like being very specific on the position of working just directly with the families, and coordinating family events, coordinating parent meetings, things of that nature. Because what I strive for, and what I'm also an advocate for, not only a mental health and an autism advocate, is to bridge the gap of resources, bringing it to the families. So, in a family engagement specialist or advocate or community liaison, you are capable. That's part, really a bulk of your role as the family engagement specialist, getting the parents the resources, classes on site, the things that they need. But of course, also if they ever have a concern, help them address that. But I wouldn't go like into case management or social work mode, because there is a counselor and a social worker to do that for them.
Okay, good, good.
Yes.
And I have to clap because I homeschool my children. I homeschool all three of my children. My oldest is 15. She went to Head Start for 6 months. She's
Yeah, that's
autistic.
a good start.
And yeah, she's autistic, high functioning autistic. And I did not have the resources for
Hmm.
her during that
Hmm.
time. So
Yes.
I thank you. I'm sure she will thank you and all others, because it is a very selfless act. It is a very struggles act, and um, it is more people needed to help
Yes.
parents. I am very grateful that because of my education background, I was able to look at autism from a different perspective, and help her where she needed that. But not everyone has that.
Yeah, and the reason that autism is so close to me, and why I'm an advocate for the just the not the awareness, because people are aware, but just acknowledging them and being the inclusivity, of it, and getting the resources to the families. Because my oldest son is high functioning autistic as well. So and I have another family member as well. So these things are very important, and they have to be talked about, and
Hmm.
they have to be addressed. And um, doing what you do, doing what we do, by doing social media and through our careers, we're addressing that, what our passion is in some way, shape, or format. Whether it's, reaching 1 or 100 people, you're reaching someone, and advocating and making others aware, like, this is an issue, and you know you're not alone. This is where you can get resources at.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes, so I appreciate that. So, what is our audience question for today, Roberta?
Well, let me find it because I did send it to you guys. Let me find it and read it to you.
Yes, because we could keep going with this conversation. We really could. So I'm like, let's go.
And that's okay because you know what? I thought about some people do not know how to even ask for help.
Hmm.
So basically, if we just want to put it out there, if you need help, ask. It's
Yeah.
okay to ask, and you have people that are resourceful out here. That's what we want to do. We want to help you. So it's okay for you to ask those questions
Hmm.
that you don't have the answers for. It's okay for you to want to know certain things. It's okay, and it's also you're supported. Find that support system. If you have an autistic child, autistic family member, your caregiver, if you're grieving, all of those things, we're here for it for that. So I like that you guys just said that because some people don't even ask. They don't even
Yeah.
ask for help.
People
I do want to
actually
throw.
message me through Facebook or through Instagram. They'll DM me, so I'm always constantly looking at my requests because I know someone is probably going to reach out and ask, for resources, and I've gotten quite a few. So yeah, I'm always pushing that. Reach out. Like, it's okay. I can, even if I don't live in your state, I guarantee you, I can help you navigate and find you exactly what you need to know.
And
Right.
while I want to say I'm no medical professional when it comes to that, and again, I'm not actively teaching, even though I have a degree, but absolutely want to say it is absolutely okay to go off of the books because the medical system is behind, and it's 100% more than okay to ask an active parent of a special needs child because a doctor may have patients that go in and out. They may have the books, mind you, that you can also read off the internet, but they don't have that one-to-one live everyday experience that people as I and Jackie has when it comes to our children.
Hmm. Yes.
Right.
So it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay if your gut feeling tells you, I don't really understand, or I don't like the way they just told me, just do this, and you want to reach a mom that actually knows,
Hmm.
because we want
That's
someone who knows, not someone who just reads the flyer all the time.
Yes. And
right.
one thing that parents don't know either is that you can have an advocate. Like, that person can be, it doesn't matter on their background, they have a license or whatever. If there's someone, if it were me and you would say, I want you in this meeting, I want you to help me because maybe I miss where I'm supposed to jump into, or I'm scared to speak up for myself, to tell them to stop, because parents are the ones that are actually in control of that meeting.
Mm,
As intimidating as they may seem, and say, no, we're going to get through this, we're going to stay on schedule, the parent actually has all the willpower in that meeting to say, wait, stop. And they don't know that. And I've had people like, my nephew, he is autistic, and his mom actually went with her to her school, and I helped her, because it was, I could see what she was talking about. Well, they talk too fast, I can't keep up, and I can't, I don't understand what they're saying. So when I was there, she was she would answer, and then she was like, well, I don't know. She like, Jackie. So I was like, yes. I'm like, this is where I'm going to jump in and say, yeah, this isn't right. This is what should be being done. And you have the resources and you have the ability to do this. You can't say you don't, because every campus has this professional, so you have the capability to do it. So she was so appreciative. She was like, I didn't know all of that. I was like, when you have someone who's already been through this and knows the ins and outs, like it's always good to have the person, like you said, that we have the hands-on experience
Mm-hmm.
as a
Yeah.
parent. Yeah.
All right. That's right. That's good stuff. So always don't be afraid to ask questions. And then what I tell my parents, you are the child's first educators. So you being a parent have already qualified yourself as that parent, as that child's first educators. Sometimes parents are, they're kind of defensive and they're kind of afraid, just like doctors, because they feel like the doctor or the educator has all of this information and they have none. But actually, you're the first educators, parents. So you're the first your child's first advocate. So you can ask all questions you need. You can get all the help that you need, and certainly we're out here for you. Now to the question of tonight: how can you simplify your life? How can how to simplify your life?
It's kind of like meant to be that this question is the question for tonight, because this is actually something that I just talked to my therapist about today. And because it's something that we've been having to work on, because I'm a perfectionist. I am someone that wants to stay busy and always busy, and came to find out why, and it was to avoid everything else that I should be, trying to work on, but now I'm working on, right? So it's to for me to simplify my life. I had to kind of realize that everything doesn't have to be going at 1,000 miles per hour. Take one thing at a time. For me, the household work is the one thing that has always, like, I will before experience a manic depressive depression, and before experience anxiety, I could do just clean, and I could do everything in 2 hours, cleaning and everything while doing laundry. But then as the depression got worse, it just was the heaviest thing for me to be able to keep up with anything. So while working with my therapist, I realized that take one thing at a time, break it down. You can do, you can sweep and every day and mop, one day, do that deep clean one day, but do the periodic sweeping every day. Spot mop if if something spills, or if it's muddy or whatever. But again, just taking one thing at a time and breaking it down, and again realizing that you don't have to do everything all the time. I don't have to be super mom all the time, because that's something that I was always striving to be. I have to remember I'm still human.
That's right.
Imana.
It,
Mhm.
true. And that's absolutely really important too. And one of the things I speak about is that we strive to be super moms when in reality we have this imaginary competition with other moms, whether we want to agree it or not, but actually with ourselves and what we perceived as what other people would think of us. And a lot of times what other people think of us isn't just, like the neighbors are keeping up with the Jones. It's going to be like, well, I'm not a good mom if my kids come to a dirty house. I'm not a good mom if I don't have the dinner done at a certain time. I'm not a good mom if I have, all these extra curriculum, important ideas that we put on us. So first thing I typically do, and even as a mom of three, I have to tell people it's like you have to remember that before you had kids, you were you.
Mhm.
When those kids are grown and gone, you'll still be you. Whether you're married or single, outside of that relationship, you're still you. So we have to remember that our identity is not mom. and we hyper focus on that so much. It's like, this is that time in my life, this is that season in my life, and I'll do X, Y, and Z when my kids are older. And it's really important that we understand that it's not a season that we have to focus on one thing. Some things have greater importance, but that doesn't mean it's all got to be all in one. And to simplify your life, you don't have to cook every day. And
Mm-hmm.
I am absolutely calling the kettle black because this is one of the things I refuse to let go of. And if I wasn't cooking, it was because my kids were like having cereal at the very most, quick ramen noodles. But as long as they had a cook meal every day, it's like, it's okay, no matter how much I'm working, as long as they had that one cook meal every day. And it was stressing me out. And
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to work. I'm a single mom, and I was trying to, bring home the bacon. I was
Mm-hmm.
first started launching my business. I was reaching out and growing a company. I'm homeschooling my kids, and I'm trying to make that meal. And I couldn't see it. I knew I was exhausted. I was like, I'm tired, but it's like listening and hearing. You can hear
Mm-hmm.
what someone said, but you're not listening. And I was not listening to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Even when my children are old, even though my oldest one is 15, her sister's 14, and my son now, he's 4. But even before then, I was running around. S What I find to be a simple form, and a calendar is great, to simplify your life, is to
Yeah.
actually realize you are in a season. And for this season, I'm going to find out what my priorities are. And in those priorities, I'm going to find out what are the priorities in them. If it's important to me that we eat dinner every day together, that's one thing. That doesn't mean I have to be the one to cook it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
Um,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I
And
like that.
and
I
I
like that.
completely relate to that because cooking is one thing that I do not like. I know there's women out there who love to cook and that like it's brings them so much joy to make like all these wonderful and beautiful looking meals, like a whole full course meal. And it's like not me. I don't not even when I was learning, like I did not like it. I cook because I have to when I have to. And but I cook enough so that we can be able to reheat, and especially because I know my kids are picky and I know they'll keep eating it. I make enough, maybe we'll eat it 2 to 3 days, and that's okay. And
see,
yeah,
mhm,
and I like that you said that, if you're a mom, your identity just isn't, being a mom. But also that goes to even women who aren't moms. Your identity just isn't your role. If you're a
exactly.
executive director, manager, whatever, teacher, whatever that is, that isn't just your identity, because what happens, like you said, we are still us and we will still be us after the career, after our kids leave the house. So we have to remember to take care of ourselves. And I think that's one thing that leaders or business owners or, entrepreneurs, we tend to forget that. We put ourselves in the back burners. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah.
Burner is the word because after a while we will burn out.
Yes. Yes. That's what I had an aha moment of that exactly with my therapist, the burnout. Like
Mhm,
what you do is you start to feel better, but then you try to do everything at once, and then you burn yourself out again and you fall into a cycle again. And
mhm.
I was like, you're right. I said, and that is exactly what I have self-reflected on too. So we're
And
on the same page.
Right,
that's good.
right,
So,
right.
like, when it comes to looking at your list and not trying to do it all at once, I have a different, not a different perspective, but I have something to add on top of that. When you make your list, you're checking it twice. You're saying what it is that's important for me to do. What can I do now and what can I do later? I'm gonna
Hmm.
add something else to that. What can I do now? What can I do later? And what can I advocate for someone else to do?
Right, right.
What does not need me to do? I don't need to fold those clothes. I don't need to
Hmm.
separate those clothes. If you got a washing machine, you don't even have to wash those clothes. Put them in a bag. When those kids do it. Another, I'm, and I'm a big advocate of reading and educating yourself. And one of the things that spoke to me a lot was we spend so much time doing laundry. And I know
Oh
it's
my
a
God.
small thing to say, but we spend a lot of time doing laundry. And I don't know a lot of people that like doing laundry. If that's you, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, but you want to do
All
laundry?
power to you. Can you come help me?
Exactly. You know, but just something like that. If you have a washer in your house, great. If you don't, then you have to go out there and do it. Even if you do, you have that extra area that you have to clean that you may want to let it look nice. You wash it, you dry it, you get it out of the dryer before it wrinkles up, or if you're like me, you're gonna let it pile up. like, and then we go over and finally fold it. We're gonna finally fold it or sort it. And all that takes time out of something I that you could do something that benefits you, and that
Mhm.
benefit can be cooking a prep for another day. That benefit could be spending time with your children. It could be growing your business, or it can be mental health that's just laying on the bed under a fan. You don't have to have a reason to take time off. You don't have to do that clothes right then and there either. I mean, my pile of clothes is probably bigger than the pile of clothes that's clean, and that's okay. Because then sometimes I'll sit down with my kids and we'll sort it, or sometimes I will go and get help.
Yeah.
You may not want to go ahead and pay someone else to go over and fold your laundry, but I guarantee that 15, 20, or $30 you spend every other week, you might look and see that you can get that time back and then some
Mhm.
by having someone else do it, and you could be
Yes.
wasting on anything else. There's tons of times. Look, I love my kids. They so spoiled. I will go shopping without them and still wind up grabbing something. They don't even have to ask me anymore. They're still in my ear, mama, mama, mama. And
Yes.
then they're happy for
Yes.
it because that's the caregiver in us. They're
Yeah.
happy for it, but it don't last very long. And within a few days, sometimes even the rest of the end of that day, I'm just like, why did I even get that? Why?
Mhm.
Because they don't like, look, they will get more enjoyment out of me using that money that I used to get whatever knick-knack it was on paying someone else to deal with that laundry and me spending that time with them.
Yeah.
So what I hear you ladies say is to simplify your life, basically identify what your needs are and what you don't need. Then identify what you don't have to do versus what you have identified what you need to do versus those stereotypes or guilt or shame that maybe your culture has put on you, right? You
Mhm.
know, because
Definitely.
you said family, you said children, you said your job, but even sometimes they even say your man, right? You
Mm.
identify with your man, and we know that's hard
Yeah.
because how can a woman be identified by another human? That's
Mhm.
something else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that really leads us into our topic tonight. Women empowerment, right?
Right, right.
Empowering yourself, advocating for yourself. Everything that we're talking about and been talking about since the beginning of the show is empowering and advocating for yourself.
Right.
So, I have a video that I'm gonna show, some like 4 minutes of it, not the whole thing. It's 11 minutes. I would like to show the whole thing, but I will definitely put the link of it in the comment section. So if that's something that you want to look at as a whole, you can. So let's go ahead and get into the video, and let me play it. Here we go.
In fifth grade, Mrs. Hopkins introduced the class to the chapter on engines. She then looked at me, her star pupil, and she said, "Don't worry, girls don't do as well at this." Undeterred, my fifth grade self went to work and scored an A when it came to engines. I knew then that girls were capable of anything. Now, a dozen years ago, in one of perhaps the most watched TED Talks of all time, Sheryl Sandberg asked the question, why do we have too few women leaders? And as someone with many years in leadership and always a deep conviction that we need more women in leadership, I thought this was a great question then. That is a great question now. I mean, where are we? We know that 57% of undergraduate degrees and 60% of master's degrees are earned by women. Women are educated. Management, 42% of management level positions are held by women. It's when we move up the leadership ladder, this is where we start to see the gender gap. And the further up you go, that gap gets really large, really fast. 2 years ago, of all the CEOs hired globally, a mere 5% were women. Today, 44 of the Fortune 500 CEOs are women. That's less than 10%. And while there are about a fifth of executive level positions that are held by women, there are still today over half of United States companies that have no, and I mean zero, women on their leadership teams. And this makes literally no sense for so many reasons, one of which is that diverse leadership teams outperform competition by over 21%. Okay, now we know that there are systemic issues of unconscious gender bias. They're well documented. We need to continue to work on these things. But then with the pandemic, we saw seismic changes in the workforce. Women started dropping out at alarming rates. Women were significantly more burnt out than their male counterparts. And at a time when we think about the post-pandemic future, where the leadership skills that are needed include things like empathetic leadership, compassion, inclusivity, consensus building, areas where women excel. At this time, 40% of women leaders are considering downshifting their careers or worse, dropping out altogether. So a dozen years of leaning in, all of our power posing, and now a generation of progress gone overnight.
Save with the Kroger app, like our customers who rave about our digital coupons. Kroger, fresh.
Wow.
So I think that was a good stopping point. Why are women, getting out of the leadership role? So that's a question that we can answer. Why do we think, especially after pandemic, why do we think, considering the things that she said, that inclusivity are important, passion, compassion, empathy, that now women are, leaving?
Okay. So one of the things that actually struck me itself was that she listed a lot of abilities that are, yes, very important, but are also kind of boxed in for what's expected of women.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever, with a lot of jobs, and you go to speak with management, your boss may be a man, but typically HR is a woman, the one that's supposed to do the human connection.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times HRs, they're not uh, respected as much as their boss was. And HRs also has like a revolving door.
Mm-hmm.
So when we put those attributes of the word leader together, they kind of, for me, they don't match.
Mm-hmm.
A person can be leader with those attributes, but that's not the role they're looking for those attributes.
Mm-hmm.
So as women and as a woman empowerment coach, I want for us to be able to get the higher status when it comes to jobs. I want us to create the jobs. I want us to give leadership. I want us to be able to give freedom of speech and feeling where it needs to be. I don't want women to be in a position where we're only being hired because we're women, so we're expected to be more sympathetic, to have more compassion. Compassion and sympathetic should be a human trait, not an expectation of a female trait.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Wow.
was one thing I noticed as well. And I believe a lot of women are going down, and a lot of women are leaving because they are feeling that burden of being expected to step into those roles,
Mm-hmm.
to fill the gap, not as a management, but as someone there to deal with the emotional needs and
Mm-hmm.
wants of the jobs. And
Yes.
let's face it, mothers, sisters, mothers, sisters, girlfriends, wives. That's not what we want, because we have to deal with a lot of other emotions already that we're already sorting through as well as ours. So it's tasking to expect a woman to, like, hey, you get this job at HR until you move up, when it's already known and proven that jobs are going to be pushed to our male counterparts first. We can get them, we can fight for them, and we are getting those roles. But we always have to push for those much harder than what our male counterparts will. A
Yeah.
woman would stay inside of the HR spot in hopes of waiting for years to get into another spot, unless she creates a rift that causes her to get into that spot. When a man doesn't have to, he could just say, "Well, you've been loyal to us for 3 years, and let's get you a raise."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think also another reason that women leave those roles is the constant um having to prove yourself, that just because I'm a woman doesn't mean that I can't be a leader, or just because I'm a woman and a mother doesn't mean that I'm fully capable as the man who doesn't have any kids or may have kids, but his counterpart, his partner, is the one that does more of the caretaking. So I really think that that also has to do with it, because
Oh,
we
wholeheartedly.
are seen as just the nurturers, the caretakers. That's what we're supposed to be. That's what
Mm,
society wants us to be. So like she said, we've been fighting for years. So we can be leaders. We are leaders. Give us, those parts and those promotions. Those surpass us. But once we're in those roles, then our capabilities are questioned, just because we are a woman.
mhm. Yes, absolutely. 100%. Because women in a lot of leaderships apparently could have the same title as the male counterpart. However, they'll say the same expectations, but those expectations are treated differently. They'll say
Yeah.
they'll have the same expectations, but they are completed. And not just from what they'll say, but as for business partners, you
Mm-hmm.
know, walking into a room where you're going to make big business decisions, would expect a man to walk in there to have power, to have to quiet the room. Even if a woman does have that same energy, there is a level of respect that is dropped by the men in the room, thinking, how is she going to carry this out? It doesn't make
Yeah.
a difference if she has been given that title and been given that spot. The views from society is like, oh, so we're going to take her word for it. Women are emotional creatures. She's not really going to do that. Or you disagree?
Hmm.
Must be that time of the month.
Hmm. And I think because we are having to constantly stand up for ourselves and prove ourselves, and show that, just again, really just having to prove ourselves over and over again, that takes a toll on your mental health.
Hmm.
And and I think that's something that's really not talked about. Not too long ago, I think, was there a superintendent that was a woman, or she was a CEO, and she didn't realize how much she was working and everything, and it took a toll on her, that she got hospitalized, and it was all linked back to her lack of self-care, her stress, her burnout. I think she had depression, but was kind of not dealing with it like she should have been. So it just took a toll on her, and she ultimately she crashed and burned. And then ultimately, that is what happens
Hmm.
when anyone, but especially women in leaders, or just maybe just leaders in general, but I think women suffer with this more, because we're constantly having to prove ourselves. We're constantly having to keep going and leave work, and I've had to be a caretaker at work, and then I have to come home and be a caretaker, and well, I can't work out today, or I can't drink water today because I'm too busy. So constantly, again, putting yourself on, they're putting themselves in that back burner.
Hmm. I agree. And I'll definitely look that up. I want to follow her story because I'm sure she has a really good message out there for women in those type of positions as well. Because burnout is easily and susceptible for women. And again, just us being women ourselves, like we are not created the same. So we
Mhm.
have an underlying want to help and improve and see growth where and when we're in leadership, and it's been proven that the more women are in leadership, the more the company around them will expand and succeed, and the more people they can help, and we take that in, we can help more people. While for a lot of people such as males, they take in growth, money, more ventures. So we see business differently, and because we see business differently and we feel like the weight of others, not just their expectation, but their livelihood is on our shoulders differently, we're more liable to want to back down or not feel as though we want to continue on with that position.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think culturally, it's the understanding that we are disrespected more. So we don't get that respect when we get among our peers. We're not expected where we have the we do, but we're not expected. So our expectations are even different, meaning that culturally we always go the 10 extra miles, right? But we never get benefit for it, or we never get um, any type of accolades for it. But we always go out 100 more than our peers, I'll say, because we're all from a diverse population as well. We're all from different cultures, So being from around culture, I would say also, although we do have some CEOs and some pretty big corporations now that are women, that that has to be taxing, because even on the smaller level, we don't get the attributes that we need or the support we need. And usually we have to abort our whole families in order to even maintain competent in certain areas, or even to compete in certain areas.
Mhm.
So we almost have to disclude our whole identity to even get into certain areas of competition when you come to talking about companies and businesses and into corporate America. I think also what we're talking about is we're forgetting the elephant in the room. Where this country really is a country that men, what is it, a men's world.
Mhm.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and especially when you talk about leadership. And it says, do you think about also causing or divide in relationships in culture, men versus women? Yeah, yeah, it
Oh,
did.
always. I mean, not. I don't want it to be always, and I don't want to start the word always, but I absolutely think that there is a difference, and it is causing. I can't say it's causing a divide. It is.
Hmm.
It is not causing a divide. It is causing the division to be noticed.
Yeah,
Mhm.
There has always been a divide. He brings in the bacon. She stay home to watch the children. She's a nurse. He's the doctor. There has
Mhm.
always been that divide. But the more that women are going into power or stepping just place down from the power and the positions that we expand upon, the more we are seeing that people don't like it. The more we are seeing like that people don't want to always be seen by women doctors. People don't always want to have an attorney that's a woman. People don't always want to say they ask for a manager and a woman walks out. They're like, oh, well, where's your manager?
right.
Mhm.
Oh, so no, it's not causing a divide. It's actually causing the eyes of those that are looking to notice the division. And for that,
Yeah,
I applaud.
yeah, yeah. And then someone said it takes two incomes for a family. So I think that's where this conversation gets started. and two incomes are needed now, because prior, and you got to think, we're talking about women empowerment, back 50, so how many years of that? 70 years? Women weren't allowed to vote. Women weren't allowed to buy houses. Women weren't allowed to buy cars. You were a renegade, a rogue, if you went out and bought a car or you bought a house. You were really not really, society looked down on you then.
Mhm.
So we're not that far from there. We're just not. And when we say we are, it's just like racism. We're lying to ourselves.
But, you know, with the question is like, it takes two households to run a family. Why does it have to be the woman that steps down?
Right. Right.
You know, if it takes two households to run a family and she's in a management or a higher position and he's not, why's the expectation of a woman that she's going to take care of the kids? You know, if she's not nursing, why can't he do it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ex- you know, especially if you're in the same household as a, you know, as a single mom and going through. I've worked night shifts. I've held down 2 3 jobs at one time
Right.
because it was important for me that my children received a quality education from home, because the schools around us was not what I wanted my children, where I wanted my children to go.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, we can go off on school systems, how they focus on testing instead of educating, but
Mm-hmm.
but I ultimately decided I was going to homeschool my children. And yes, that took a lot of sacrifices. And I could have easily moved in with one of the people I was in, like my son. As, yes, the question is, I've seen today a woman had asked a man asked a woman for a divorce. And she said she'll take the kids with them. So I know who she's speaking of. And the truth was, and I absolutely applaud her. She They had asked about the children, what happened to their children. They have two children together, and she made the ultimate choice that he had family around, he had help, and he was in a good neighborhood. She was going to be able to continue to grow her career while still visiting the children, having the children live with her part time, and help them take care of them. And the more that we as women and as men step up as being a parent, the less this whole two family household, yes, she stood on business, will stop. Not saying it doesn't take two families to run a household, because it does not all the time. I am living proof of it. I am not making millions of dollars yet.
Right.
I have made come by to what it can be. When it came to my son, as you realize, my children had a 10-year gap between my youngest daughter and my son. I was in a relationship where I was engaged. We were together for 2 years, and I had got pregnant. When a lot of times in relationships, when you're not the fun one and the man thinks that now he has you because you have a kid by and whatnot, then they'll fall into the role of, well, I'm going to do that. I'm expecting you to do this. And that's when I put on the hard brakes. I was like, wait, what? It's like, well, I pay rent where I'm at, and my rent is high. So after I figure we'll move in with you before the baby was born, and then you can quit your job and not work, and I'll pay for cheaper rent. I was like, no. That idea absolutely shocked everyone. I was like, no, I'm not going to have that, because if you can't afford to pay rent where you're at, why would I quit doing what I'm doing while I'm still taking care of my children to entertain you? Why would I because our lifestyle wasn't matching up. I was a morning
Mm-hmm.
person. I'm a go-getter. I'm homeschooling my kids. I believe in being able to knock down sitting in it, but rising up. And I guess you can call me a feminist. I don't really know, because the word has different meanings nowadays.
Well, thank
Look,
you,
while
dear.
we're on Taboo Chronicles, people can
Hi,
look
That's
at
Xavier.
yes,
that's okay. You're welcome. Yeah.
yes, thank you.
You are welcome here, baby.
Yes, yes,
I do get this. People see my hijab and are like, "Oh, well, you're all dressed up and you're doing this, and how are you going to call yourself a feminist because you're still wearing a hijab?" I said, "Because what? There are some people who are forced to wear things, and some people are forced to do things, and there are others that choose to. If I
hmm,
choose to cover my head and proceed how I want to do about my day to day, that is still my choice." And for me, that's what being a feminist is. A feminist is not wearing more or wearing less. A feminist is a woman who
hmm,
has the freedom to choose and live how she wants to, regardless of her culture,
yes,
regardless of her social standing, regardless of her religion. Because if it aligns with me, then I'm gonna do it.
All
yeah,
right now.
yes,
And that's exactly what I had to do with him. I was very sickly. I was bedridden with my son, but I broke up with his behind. And look, I'm not trying to look at anybody, but I laugh about it because I laugh at the breakup because I have prospered since then. And I have
Mhm.
two older daughters, and one of the things important for me, and as is to show women that just because there was an issue, because believe me, there was not a problem, because my son is a blessing. But if because there was an issue in that relationship, doesn't mean you have to stay in it.
hmm,
Right.
I would not. I would never tell a woman to stay in a relationship for no kid for her kids because those kids will grow up doing the same thing,
That's
yes,
right.
and you don't want your kids doing that.
And
You
you
don't
don't
want
hmm,
your
want to
kids
see
staying in
it,
a
right?
household that doesn't get
yes,
align with them that make them miserable. We
That's
don't want
right.
yes,
we don't want them staying in a job that makes them miserable.
That's
We
right.
don't
preach,
want them to accept physical or verbal abuse from a manager because it pays the bills and makes them miserable.
yes,
That's right. You
yes,
don't have
yes.
to.
And it's exactly the conversation I had to have with my husband and tell him, look, if you want me to have this house sparkling and cleaning and dinner cooked all the time, guess what? You're going to have to be the sole provider and I'm going to have to be a stay at home because I cannot be working a full time job and you expect me to put forth 100%. You're gonna have to put in the work too. We're gonna have to go 50-50. If you cooking, I'm cleaning. I'm doing something that that needs to get done. If you cook, then I'm gonna wash the dishes, and you're gonna ensure that the kids go to bed. Like this is takes a team. We both are in a marriage. We're teams. We're a partner. We need to support each other. I'm gonna support you. Don't, and I tell them, don't let me be the only one speaking. Is there something that you need from me? Because maybe there's something that I'm not doing that I need to be doing. And so we really just laid it all out and had that conversation. And ever since then, it has gotten so much better. Like we're so much better space. Both actually making transitions in our careers as well, because we both realize, like, no, like we come first, our kids come first.
Hmm.
And yes, ultimately communication, and that you can pull that same key communication into your workplace. If your boss doesn't know, if your co-executive or whoever it is, if they don't know that you are, maybe there's something going on at home, or because you can be open about it and say, hey, like right now I'm gonna need some time off because I have to deal with this, like, and I'm allowed this time off and I'm gonna take it because it's my right as an employee. I
Hmm.
have the time off. Or if it's a task that really is not a one person job, is really a 2 or 3 person job, then you speak up and say it, because it's something that I had to learn. No one can read your mind. You have to speak up. And again, that goes to the empowerment. You have to become empowered. You have to advocate for yourself. And I'm not saying it's easy, because I'm just learning how to do this. I am 31 years old. I have switched careers, going in back actually into what I initially first started in when I first started my career in social work and social services. I'm going back to what I did. And it's like that saying says, like, if you don't give it a shot, if you don't give that new role or that position or that new space a shot, you won't know if it's meant for you. And then if it's not meant for you, you're going to land where you're meant to be. Ultimately, it's going to get you to where you should be. And that's where I am. And again, that just takes time. You really it takes practice. It really is the self-confidence that you have to build, the empowerment, the learning the skills how to do it, because there's a wrong way to do it too. There's a very wrong way to do it. If you're overwhelmed and you say, "Why I just can't do this," you don't want to do that, especially not to your boss. You don't want to
Right.
just scream at them. You don't want to just scream
Right.
at your spouse. You don't your partner. You don't want to. That's the wrong way to do it.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think it's so super important that you had mentioned that you had the conversation with your husband and you guys put it out on a table, and how it also will work when it works comes to your job. It does tie back to the video that you showed. Why are a
Hmm.
lot of women leaving the workplace after we have finally started bridging that gap?
Hmm.
Imagine someone such as you in a high position at a job that requires, say you worked for Tesla and you were the one who's over this particular one in the neighborhood. You weren't just the person at the door, you weren't just the ARHR, but you were actually the person that was responsible for that one. You were the senior manager. And as a senior manager, you would still have a manager over you.
Hmm.
If you
Yeah.
can't communicate with them, or if they're not open for communication, you're going to leave that position. And if you're at home, and even if they are open for communication, and you're taking on those responsibilities that you expect to take up, that's you, not what they've adding to you, but what you
Hmm.
expect to take. But then you come home and you're also expected to fully work that third shift without having the support you need at home. We women, by default, we pick our children first. We pick our families first.
Yes.
And while we may not want to let go of that career, we're going to, like, I can't continually do both of them. So it is absolutely important that we have that help. And if we don't have the help, we communicate that we have the help. So thank you for that.
Yes, yes. Well, this was great. This was a great conversation, and I really feel like it could probably we need like a part two of this conversation, because I think also we have to acknowledge the women at like yourself, Imana, who are single, and maybe and there are women who are single moms, and they don't have a support system, like they truly don't have a support system, or even just someone who, people choose nowadays to be alone, to be single, like that's the life they want to live. Cool, but they have to remember it, whether whatever it is, if you're a parent or not, it takes a village. You have to take care of yourself, and you have to prioritize, as Imana said. You have to think about, you have to list, what can I do now, what can I do later, and what can I have someone else do, and then calendaring as well. So you really have to take all that into consideration, and I really think we're gonna have to have a part two of continue.
Awesome.
Yes.
I'll be glad to come. I've enjoyed speaking with you. I always enjoy, again, as I said, I've been single for a while, but I always enjoy the marriage perspective as well. Um, one of my best friends, she is married, and they've been married for, I don't know, I think it's like 16 years.
I
So
just had a 15 years anniversary last Saturday.
congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
I love it. I am not against marriage, and I love when women like you and women like her speak on their spouses, and they're like, okay, so this, we weren't agreeing. He wanted this, I wanted that, and we came together, because we also need more of that. We need a lot of
Yes.
women empowerment as single women, but also a lot of women empowerment inside of our marriage, to
Yes.
show open communication and how, what we want to show other women, how to advocate,
Yes.
because just because you're a wife doesn't mean you're a slave, and they need to be
Yeah.
separated just more than just words.
Right, right. And some people ain't even married and they think that way. So
We
you're
ain't
right.
talking about those wife privileges for a girlfriend now.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying, it's still the same. Well, I really appreciate both of you. I enjoyed the conversation. It's about time for us to leave out. So I'm going to let you, Emmanuel, go ahead and let the audience know how to find you, where to find you, and as we get off.
Okay. So I can be found on my Facebook page. It is Imana Aziz at Facebook, or my Instagram, which is Imana's Voice.
All right.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yes.
Jackie?
And you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Jackie the Wellness Advocate, and our podcast, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, Taboo Chronicles podcast. Message us, email us if there's something specific that you want us to talk about. Reach out to us individually or through our podcast page and email should you need any resources. Roberta?
Please reach out. Let's
All right. And
absolutely
I'm,
reach
and, and I'm Roberta the Tool Lady, and thank you for joining us tonight. Love you all, and good night.
See you
out.
in 2 weeks.
Bye.